So I love I love your new book, Fierce Self-Compassion, because as a feminist and as a mindfulness teacher, I really relate to so many of the things. And I wanted to ask you first about like kind of the idea of women and self-compassion, because your book is all about women and self-compassion. And you write
Yeah.
that like we would maybe assume that because women are socialized to develop qualities of warmth and care, that they're more self-compassionate than men. But the research shows the opposite, that women are less self-compassionate than men. That's so sad to me. So can you tell us
Yeah.
about this and why this is so?
Yeah. Well, also the research shows it's actually not biological sex, if there is such a thing, it's actually gender role socialization. So
Oh,
women who
wow.
are more androgynous, who identify more with the male and female gender roles, in terms of traits, don't have less self-compassion. And it's really about entitlement to meet your own needs, right? I mean,
Mhm.
the patriarchy, you say you're a feminist, so the patriarchy, I think, intentionally socialized women to focus on meeting others' needs and not their own, because that's a really, and also not to get angry about anything, because that's a really good way to make sure that women stay subordinate, right? So basically, women are socialized that we need to be a good woman, we need to be self-sacrificing, we should always focus on other people first. That's what we like in women, that they're always focused on others. We don't like a woman who says, hey, I'm really proud of something I've done. It's like, oh, we don't like that, right? So this gender role socialization, even it's not that men are socialized to be self-compassionate. In fact, they're very uncomfortable with self-compassion. They don't show up at my workshops, but they are socialized to feel that their needs are worthy of being met. And women
Mm.
are socialized to feel that they should always be focused on others. And that's why they have slightly less levels of self-compassion, even though they have much higher levels of compassion for others than men do. So with women, it's all about the difference between how you treat yourself and others.
It's so fascinating because kind of I've sort of been led to believe is that kind of like what we may have more on the inside, right? We may express more on the outside, right? So you would think in some ways that I mean, and maybe that's so maybe that can be a reason for women to practice some more self-compassion, right? So they can be more self-compassionate on the outside, but there's a real dichotomy between what we're feeling for others and what we're feeling for ourselves, you're saying.
Yeah, so there is for many people, right? So if you just, for instance, if you click college undergraduates, there's almost no link between how compassionate they are to themselves and others. But it's all explained by the fact that there are many, many people who are kind, caring, loving to others and treat themselves like crap. It's not the case that you get people who are like really self-compassionate and aren't compassionate to others. So
Mm.
basically, almost everyone is more compassionate to others than they are to themselves. Some people are kind of equally compassionate, right? And with age, the discrepancy gets a little less. But what we do know about the research, it's not like they aren't related at all, because when you train to be more self-compassionate, you actually increase in compassion for others. But this is a really big thing. It allows you to sustain giving to compassion for others without burning out. So if you just give and give and give and never turn the lens of compassion inward, well, you can kind of get away with it for a while, but eventually your cup will run dry. So
Yeah.
people who especially who learn to be more self-compassionate are less likely to burn out from being a caregiver for others.
And you look at this from the lens of like in this book, from the lens of like our social historical kind of status. And I've thought about this before, like at some point, like women were, considered property, and
Exactly.
so it was important for us to just be like if you cared for others, if you took care of children and you took care of the men, that was your value
That was your
from.
value, right? And so you learn to downplay your own needs, and to like you might meet the needs of your husband or your children. Their needs are more important than our own, right? In
Mm.
fact, a lot of women have trouble with self-compassion because they're afraid it's selfish, or that other
Yes.
people won't like them if they draw a boundary or meet their own needs. And so
Yeah.
women have to be aware, we have to be aware of our socialization so that we don't fall prey to the system that it was put in place to reinforce inequality. We can't forget that. This isn't accidental, right? It happened on purpose. Again, so women were considered property. Her whole place in life was to support her man. That was her value in society because she had less value in society than men did. And so really self-compassion is, I think, is a radical feminist act. It's not saying my needs are more important than those of other people, but it's saying they're equally important. I count too. And also, for instance, the Me Too movement, I completely see as a self-compassion movement. It's women saying, you're not going to harm me anymore. I'm going to have compassion for myself. Compassion means concern with the alleviation of suffering. Now, I'm not going to let you continue to harm me. I'm going to stand up and protect myself to help alleviate my suffering. And that's that kind of fierce energy is also a really important part of compassion. And unfortunately, the fierceness has been, people try to socialize us out of it. We don't like angry women. Women are supposed to be nice and sweet and compliant. And if a woman gets angry, they call her lots of nasty names. And so self-compassion says, I'm sorry if you don't like it, but my needs are important and I'm going to assert them.
Catch new episodes of the Mindful Mama podcast and other free resources, including the Mindful Mom Guide at mindfulmamamentor.com. You can listen to every back catalog episode, including interviews with Dr. Dan Siegel, Ianla Van Zant, Sharon Salzberg, and get meditations, join our private Facebook group, and more. Go to mindfulmamamentor.com now. I'll see you there.